There is an animal walking through the forests of Asia right now that most people have never seen, never heard of, and could not pick out of a lineup. It doesn't have antlers. It doesn't roar. It's about the size of a beagle, and the males have two small tusks instead of horns. And yet, for over 1,000 years, what comes out of its body has been treated as one of the most valuable natural substances on Earth. This is the musk deer. And the question we're going to spend the next few minutes answering is harder than it sounds. What is this animal actually worth? Here's the twist. There isn't one answer. The value of this exact same species changes completely depending on which country you're standing in. In one country, this animal is bred in captivity, and killing a wild one is illegal. Its value comes from a substance extracted without harming it. In another, a small, tightly regulated legal hunt exists alongside a much larger and more damaging illegal one. In two more countries, there is no legal market for the animal at all. Its value comes almost entirely from staying alive. By the end of this video, we'll compare all of these models side by side, and we'll be upfront about where the numbers are solid and where they're genuinely disputed. Stick around, because some of what we found surprised us too. Before we go country by country, here's the one biological fact this entire story is built on. Adult male musk deer, and only adult males, carry a small gland on their abdomen. It secretes a waxy reddish-brown substance that, once dried, becomes what traders call musk grain. For over 1,000 years, it's been used as a fixative base in perfumery and as an ingredient in traditional medicine across China and South Asia. How much is it worth? Here's where we have to be careful. Because natural musk is illegal to trade internationally in most of its range, there's no transparent market price, only reported black market figures, and they vary a lot depending on the source. Some fragrance industry reports place raw musk at roughly $45,000 per kilogram. Others report figures as high as $50,000 to $80,000 per kilogram. We're not going to pretend that range doesn't exist. What's consistent across the reporting is this. Some documented black market prices, by weight, have exceeded the price of gold. Here's the underlying tension driving everything you're about to see. A single male only produces a small amount of musk per year, typically just a few grams. That scarcity is the whole story. Farming, hunting, medicine, conservation. Every model we're about to look at is really just a different answer to the same problem. How do you get more of an extremely scarce, extremely valuable substance out of an animal that barely produces any of it? We'll come back to that question in every country we visit. If there's one country where the musk deer has been built into a large-scale, organized industry, it's China. China began musk deer domestication trials in 1958. Over the following decades, breeders developed techniques to extract musk from live captive males without killing them, restraining the animal once a year, removing the gland's contents by hand, and releasing it to be extracted again the following season. Farms have operated in Sichuan, Shanxi, and Anhui provinces. It's worth pausing on the word farming here. These are still wild origin animals raised in captive breeding facilities, not domesticated livestock in the way cattle or sheep are. Farming is the closest economic description, but the biology underneath it is still that of a wild species. And even in the best documented captive systems, the yield is small. Research at one major farm in Gansu province, tracking data from 1997 to 2009, found the average annual musk yield per farmed male was under 8 grams. That's from a single farm over a specific period, not a national average, but it illustrates just how biologically limited this process is, even under controlled conditions. As of 2017, the most recent detailed nationwide figures we could find, China had more than 20,000 musk deer in captivity, producing roughly 150 kilograms of musk a year nationally. In Shanxi province specifically, around 14,000 farmed deer produced about 100 kilograms that year. Local governments in some of Shanxi's poorer counties have promoted musk deer breeding as a rural income program, with cooperatives that pay villagers for forage or labor. Now, here's where the story gets genuinely interesting, and where we have to be precise, because it would be easy to overstate this. Musk is an ingredient in a number of traditional Chinese medicines, including Angong Niu Huang Wan, used for stroke and related emergencies, and Pian Tse Huang, a centuries-old formula for liver and inflammatory conditions. Pian Tse Huang isn't a small herbal producer. It's a company publicly traded on the Shanghai Stock Exchange, with a market capitalization in the billions of dollars. Here's what we can say responsibly. For years, analysts have noted that the company's premium pricing power rests, in part, on the genuine scarcity of natural ingredients like musk and bezoar, supply that's fundamentally capped by how many animals exist and how much they can biologically produce. That's a real, documented constraint on production capacity. What we can't responsibly say is that a recent stock or earnings move was caused by musk shortages specifically. In its 2025 annual report, the company posted its first simultaneous decline in both revenue and profit in a decade. But the reporting attributes that primarily to weaker sales in its core liver disease medicines, a struggling distribution segment, and intensifying competition in its cosmetics line, not explicitly to a shortage of musk. The scarcity story explains why this business can charge premium prices in the first place. It does not, on the evidence we found, explain this particular downturn. That distinction matters because it's tempting to tell you a simpler, more dramatic version of this story. The accurate version is, musk deer biology sets a hard ceiling on how much of this input China's pharmaceutical industry can ever produce, and that ceiling has shaped a multi-billion-dollar pricing strategy for decades. Whether it's the reason for any single year's earnings report is a separate, unproven question. If you're the kind of person who wants the accurate version of a story even when the simpler version would be more dramatic, this channel exists for exactly that. Consider subscribing, because the next country runs on a completely different model, not farming, but hunting, and the line between legal and illegal gets a lot blurrier. Thousands of miles north, in the mountains of southern Siberia, there is no farm. There's a forest, and, depending on exactly where you are, either a hunter with a permit or a poacher with a snare. Russia holds one of the largest wild populations of Siberian musk deer of any country. But its legal status varies dramatically by region, and it's changed over time. In the Altai-Sayan region specifically, licensed hunting of musk deer has been banned since the 1999 to 2000 season, with one notable exception, Krasnoyarsky Krai, where a regulated quota has historically allowed a harvest of around 300 animals a year. That regional detail matters because some reporting on Siberian musk trade focuses on the Altai Republic, where hunting has actually been banned for over 2 decades. What's being described there isn't a licensed hunting economy, it's poaching, operating in defiance of that ban. Local reporting has referred to musk as Siberian gold and cited a reported local price around $200 per gram in that specific region. That's a single, local reported figure, not a verified global market price, and we're not going to multiply it into 1. Here's where the earlier tension resurfaces. Because only adult males carry any musk at all, and because snares can't tell a male from a female or a juvenile, researchers and conservation groups have repeatedly estimated, across several independent field studies since the 1990s, that somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 deer die for every single usable musk pod actually recovered. Accounting for that bycatch, widely cited estimates put the total closer to 160 deer killed for every kilogram of musk collected under unregulated hunting. We want to be honest that this is a widely repeated range drawn from multiple regional studies, not one precise global census, but multiple independent sources land in a similar place, which gives it real weight. Historical trade records from the 1990s, and we mean specifically the 1990s, not today, documented roughly 300 to 380 kilograms of musk moving out of eastern Russia between 1989 and 1996, with an estimated 1/3 of that volume believed to have come from illegal sources. From there, the paper trail runs through European trading hubs. In the mid-1990s, Germany re-exported the overwhelming majority of the raw musk it imported from Russia onward to Hong Kong and Singapore. None of that tells us what's moving today. It tells us what the pipeline looked like 30 years ago, which is still useful for understanding how this trade has historically worked. The species' current wild population in Russia's Far East is estimated in the hundreds of thousands, one of the larger remaining musk deer populations globally. But pressure has intensified as populations elsewhere in Asia have already collapsed, pushing more global demand toward Russian and Mongolian stock. Country 2's story: a species where the legal hunting economy is small, regionally specific, and has actually been shrinking for over 2 decades, while a separate illegal economy keeps operating in the space that ban was supposed to close. Now we go to the Himalayas, Nepal, and northern India, where the economic model isn't farming or hunting. It's protection. This is where CITES matters most, and it's worth getting exactly right. Musk deer populations across Afghanistan, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, and Pakistan, the Himalayan range states, are listed under CITES, Appendix 1. The strictest tier, meaning international commercial trade in wild-sourced specimens, is prohibited. Populations everywhere else, including China, Russia, and Mongolia, fall under the more permissive Appendix 2, where regulated trade is technically possible under permit. In Nepal specifically, the alpine and Himalayan musk deer are also protected under national law and classified as endangered. There is no legal domestic market for musk deer products at all. So where does economic activity happen here? Not from selling the animal, from protecting it. Conservation areas like Kaptad National Park and the Annapurna Conservation Area run anti-poaching programs using camera traps and community monitoring networks, funded through a mix of park entrance fees, international conservation grants, and, in some community-managed areas, locally administered poaching fines that get reinvested into further protection work. We want to be precise about what this actually is, because it would be easy to overstate it. This is not the musk deer generating an economy in the way a farmed or hunted product does. It's indirect, conservation funding, ranger employment, and research grants that exist because the species is protected, not direct revenue extracted from the animal itself. And we could not find a reliable, publicly reported figure for the total size of this conservation-linked economy at a national level in either Nepal or India. If you see a specific dollar figure claimed for this, treat it with skepticism. We didn't find one we could verify. The pressure on wild populations hasn't disappeared, though. Field research has documented that rising international musk prices have driven parallel increases in poaching and smuggling out of Himalayan habitats, with buyers reportedly concentrated in Hong Kong, mainland China, and Japan. And there's a detail worth including because it complicates a simpler narrative. Surveys around Nepal's musk deer habitat have found that most local respondents are Buddhist and describe involvement in poaching as conflicting with their own faith, suggesting the killing is often driven by demand and traders reaching in from outside these communities, not by the communities themselves. For contrast, and only for contrast, it's worth noting that a legal high-value biological product does exist in these same mountains. Ophiocordyceps sinensis, a parasitic fungus known locally as Kita jadi or Yartsa gunbu, has been reported selling for roughly $10,000 to $14,000 per kilogram in some Indian Himalayan markets, and has been documented making up a significant share, in some surveyed households as much as 40 to 60% of annual income in collecting communities. It's a reminder that legal, high-value wildlife-adjacent economies are possible in this exact region. The musk deer simply isn't one of them anymore, because unregulated hunting closed that door generations ago. Countries 3 and 4 told together, no direct legal revenue from the animal at all. Whatever economic activity exists here is indirect, modest, and tied to keeping the species alive long enough for conservation infrastructure to function around it. There's one more piece of this story, and it's not a country. It's what happened to the rest of the world's perfume industry. Commercial trade in natural musk deer specimens has been restricted under CITES since 1979. In the decades since, the fragrance industry didn't wait around for a solution. It built one. Modern commercial perfumery today relies overwhelmingly on synthetic musk molecules. laboratory-made compounds developed across several chemical families since the early 20th century that replicate the scent without the animal at all. Exactly how many distinct molecules are in active use depends on how you count and classify them. Estimates in industry sources range from a few dozen to roughly 200, but the direction is clear either way. It's now the overwhelming majority of what musk means in a bottle of perfume, with small quantities of legacy natural musk still reportedly circulating in a handful of niche or regional markets. How big is that synthetic replacement industry? Here's where we have to be transparent. Market research firms disagree with each other dramatically. Some size the global synthetic musk market at around $135 million. Others put comparable categories as high as $3.8 billion. That's not a typo, and we're not going to pick whichever number sounds better. The disagreement almost certainly comes down to how each firm defines the category and which downstream products they count. We're flagging it as genuinely unresolved rather than pretending one number is right. So if the fragrance world mostly moved on, why does natural musk still have any value left at all? Based on the available reporting, traditional medicine appears to be a major and likely now the primary remaining source of demand for natural musk, which is exactly why China's pharmaceutical supply chain, not the global perfume industry, is the real center of gravity for this animal's economic life today. So here's the honest, uncomfortable question at the center of this whole story. Does making money from this animal help protect it or put it at greater risk? The evidence genuinely pulls in both directions. The case for farming. China's captive breeding system was specifically designed to supply musk without killing wild animals, and it has created real income for some rural communities. The case against, it hasn't eliminated wild poaching anywhere else in the species range, and China has stopped importing natural musk from abroad specifically to conserve the wild resource, which tells you the domestic farmed supply still can't fully meet demand on its own. The case for conservation is strategy in Nepal and India. It's the model that has actually kept some wild populations from local extinction. The case against, it depends entirely on outside funding reaching remote areas, while the price pressure driving poaching originates almost entirely outside these countries' borders, meaning local protection efforts are constantly working against demand they have no control over. There is no clean winner in this story. That's not a failure to reach a conclusion. It's the actual finding. Let's put what we've verified side by side. China, a legal captive breeding system supplying a genuine pharmaceutical supply chain, where musk deer biology sets a hard, well-documented ceiling on production, though we can't responsibly attribute any single company's stock or earnings moved directly to musk supply. Russia, a legal hunting economy that has actually been shrinking region by region since the late 1990s, operating alongside a separate and better documented illegal one, with local, not global, black market prices reported in specific regions. Nepal and India, no legal market for the animal at all, and an indirect, modestly funded conservation economy that we could not attach a reliable total dollar figure to, despite real on-the-ground anti-poaching work. Which model is strongest? It depends entirely on what you're measuring, and we're not going to pretend otherwise. By documented legal industrial output, China's captive breeding to pharmaceutical pipeline is the most substantial. By reported price per gram, the illegal market, wherever it's operating, is the most lucrative version of this product on Earth. By the actual survival of wild musk deer populations, neither farming nor a shrinking legal hunt has solved the core problem. Only strict enforced protection has kept some wild populations from disappearing entirely, and even that isn't fully working yet. So, back to the question we opened with. What is this animal really worth? It genuinely depends on where you're standing, and on what, exactly, you're trying to measure. In one country, it's a captive-bred pharmaceutical input feeding a multi-billion-dollar industry. In another, it's a hunted product whose price seems to rise the more its wild population shrinks. In two more, its clearest documented value is something almost paradoxical, simply staying alive long enough for a ranger, a researcher, or a conservation program to have a reason to exist around it. Perhaps the most accurate thing we can say about the musk deer isn't a single number. It's that the same species, same biology, same tiny gland, same few grams of secretion a year, can occupy four entirely different positions in four entirely different economies, sometimes changing within the same decade. And that getting the real story right means being honest about exactly where the evidence is solid and exactly where it isn't. If you want to see the hidden economy behind another animal, told with the same care for getting the numbers right, subscribe and join us for the next story.